Welcome to another exciting episode of Kevjet the podcast. This week's guest is the very handsome and talented online body coach, model and presenter, Lawrence Price.
I don't necessarily sit down and plot and plan how it's all going to work. I just really do feel my way through it and try and be as heart-led as possible. And obviously the critical thinking and problem-solving part of the brain kicks in along the way.
We discuss mindfulness and how important it is in everyday life.
I think one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is not what do I need to do right now, but simply what do I need?
We discuss adopting puppies and how they change our lives for the better.
Can you hear the panting is not me. For those listening, if you're driving your car, that panting is not me. We've got a playmate for Ruby, our puppy. We got another dog called Aries over at the moment, and they keep darting in, spreading the love.
Lawrence discusses his relationship with his online client.
It is a very one-to-one personal relationship that I have with all of my online clients, and it's not an automated button that you press and all of a sudden you're on a course and you're getting sent automated messages and so on. There's obviously a degree of automation, but it's a very personalized service in that the very first thing we do is have a very in-depth conversation.
Could you deal with Lawrence's house rules? No scrolling? What?
House rules, LLC ground rules, I call them, because it's called Lawrence's Live Club. So no phone scrolling in the hour before bed, no phone scrolling in the hour after waking. This is...
What?
Yeah. So this is to kind of give my clients back control of their own awareness, and so they're in less of a reactionary state and they feel more centered and in alignment, because that's again returning back to their truth, where they can create some real magic from. And also crucially, I recommend no phone scrolling during workouts. Of course, they can enter the data into the app as they go, and they can listen to music because that has a real emotional power to it.
Of course, we have to discuss life as a model.
Yep. The modeling thing just kind of naturally happened, and then now I'm standing in my pants in a room in front of 20 people having underwear shoots and all that kind of stuff. And I've always just again thought, if this feels good and if this feels right, I'm just kind of going to flow with it.
And what's a Kevjet conversation without a bit of fun? Wait, did I say fun? I meant filth.
Sorry. Didn't say my penis. Great. You. Whew, that was close.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to have to edit that.
Say juicy a lot. Crikey, I don't know where that came from. Juicy. My client will be doing a rep and I'm like, oh, it's juicy. I don't know. The word juicy is juicy, isn't it? It is. It's like, oh my gosh, just a juicy word. Hey, gosh, now I'm going to go and sit pensively in the garden and be like, my truth.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Cheers, mate. Right, back to life.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with Lawrence Price. Welcome, Lawrence Price, to Kevjet the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kevjet. This is amazing.
I know you're a very, very busy person, so I appreciate taking the time to do this.
Well, no, I'll flip that back to you and say thank you for having me on. And I am a little bit astounded as to why you'd have me onto your podcast. You've had all these amazing guests. You've got even more amazing guests lined up. And here I am chatting with you. I feel very honored and privileged and a little bit confused, Kev.
Welcome to my world. State of confusion.
Constant confusion, but going with it anyway.
Exactly. So Lawrence, you are a trainer, a model, a presenter, a brand ambassador, a husband, a father.
Oh, God, you just recently give me a panic attack.
You just recently adopted a puppy.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you do it all?
Just there's never. So the thing is, my philosophy in life is I set intentions for the kind of life I want to lead, and they might be quite clear visions. I might kind of picture this scene, this vision in the future that might be professional or personal orientated, but I don't necessarily sit down and plot and plan how it's all going to work. I just really do feel my way through it and try and be as heart-led as possible. And obviously the critical thinking and problem-solving part of the brain kicks in along the way. But I just kind of try and live with a bit of flow is what I'm trying to say. And with that, I try not to, as I'm kind of exploring what's in front of me and doing what feels good and exploring more of that, try not to get too sticky, try not to hang on to too much mentally. And I just feel my way through it all. So even if I do have weeks, which I often do, if I think on a Sunday night about all the things that I have to do that week, I can feel the anxiety bubbling up and that sense of overwhelm. So I'm like, nope, you don't need to think. You just release the thought and just be where your feet are and feel your way through it. And it's never as hard or as challenging as we think. Don't believe everything you think. So I guess that's my approach.
Don't believe everything you think. I love that.
Totally.
The Sunday night thoughts are the worst.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I think it part of trying to make us feel safe and that we're in control and that everything's in order and, ticked all those boxes that we can kind of mentally replay it in our mind, all the things that we have to do and that everything will be okay. We don't need, I think it's a waste of emotional energy. Once we've got a general idea of what's in front of us, just be totally where our feet are and, less story making in our minds. I think that's something I learned a little while ago is, we can live through loads of challenges that never happen just because we're creating those stories in our minds. So release the stories, be present. If in doubt, connect to presence, rest in awareness, and enjoy this beautiful ride of life.
It's definitely a ride. It's never as bad as we make it out to be in our heads.
Totally. 100%.
Let's sort of introduce new listeners to who you are, what you're actually doing. I know I highlighted some of the things that you're doing, but how would you introduce yourself to somebody who's not heard of Lawrence Price?
Well, you're right. I'm a coach. I'm a fitness coach. I've been a fitness coach for 16 years. Predominantly, I'm an online fitness coach and a model. And I work with people predominantly who are approaching 40, as I am, in a couple of months, or in their 40s.
So
yeah. So this is like such a special time of our lives. This is a powerful chapter. So I like to work with people who are really focusing on using fitness and mindfulness to enhance their life experience at this most amazing of chapters in our life, but also, we're getting health and goodness into our bodies for the decades to come as well. So I'm an online coach that focuses in that area. And then modeling is one of those careers that, I fell into it by accident. Again, I had intention, as I was mentioning earlier, I always wanted and had interest in doing it, but didn't have a plan. So it kind of evolved that way for me. And it is very sporadic. So some weeks I will have shoots, other weeks I won't. And that's almost like a thing that sits alongside my main focus as a coach, I guess.
Cool. How do you prioritize your home life with your work life? Because your work life seems quite manic. And how do you keep up with? So let's answer that question first, because I have so many questions in my head. But
thank you. Yes, I think I definitely have one foot in calm, one foot in chaos. And that's both in terms of the external environments I experience. Where I live is in Hampshire. It's like an hour outside London. And this is the calm. And then I work half of the time in London, which is the chaos and the buzz that I love as well. And that's the external environment, and the internal environment feels the same sometimes. I have a bit of structure. So I have a few families that I head up the fitness for, look after the fitness for in London. And that will be for a few half days a week. And then the rest of the time I'm out in the countryside with my online clients and with my family. And I do think that everyone is different. Everyone's personalities obviously function slightly differently. But the way I work, I need a bit of freedom. I need to navigate that chaos and to kind of like be with it and just to kind of feel my way through it. But I also need the structure of showing up in various places, getting work done. I'm quite because of the conditioning growing up, I'm very dutiful. I do rely a lot on showing up for people, and I have a strong sense of duty. But that gives me my structure half the week, and then the other half it's slightly madness and slightly chaos. But I think, like most people, I'm trying to find that balance between following my purpose and hopefully a healthy ambition around that, whilst also trying to get the balance right with being present with my family and giving the time to show up. Can you hear the dogs panting? Hey, darling. Hey, guys. So trying to get the right balance between being present with my family and, as I said, being kind of focused in the now as much as possible. It's a tightrope that I'm always walking. Some weeks I definitely struggle, and then I have to recalibrate, come back into alignment. And other weeks I'm like, that was the perfect week work-wise, with my family and my private life, whatever it might be. But it's a constant. I think I have got an idea now of the sweet spot, but I'm constantly moving in and out of it. That's a very long-winded answer to your question, but it's, that moment of perfection, that kind of equilibrium is fleeting. It's never lasting forever. And I think, I accept that it will always be like that. It's a bit of a dance.
I totally understand that, because my day-to-day is quite manic. And when I feel really stressed and manic, I feel like I also have to squeeze in times with my friends and have that whole social thing. And then you tend to forget, I need to have that time at home as well with my family and things like that. And you just have to balance all that out. And it is difficult. And it's something people don't talk about.
100%. I think one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is not what do I need to do right now, but simply what do I need right now? And it's that whole thing of we are human beings, not human doings. But sometimes we get so driven into this, right? What have I got to do? What's the to-do list? Where have I got to be? But if we just adjust that question slightly and say, what do I need now? Then sometimes it's like, I just need to slow down. I need to stop. I need to be with myself. I need to, whatever it might be. And I think that's true wisdom. I think that that's the deepest part of ourself, our kind of deeper truth. It's maybe our deeper expanded awareness that sits away from our mind and the way that our mind reacts to whatever is in front of us. I think as much as we can come home to that deeper part of ourselves and ask ourselves, what do we need now? Then we'll be okay. We can keep coming back into alignment. And that's when we feel at our best, we function at our best, we show up better for the roles and relationships in our life. So it's a case of sometimes the most selfless thing we can do is be so-called selfish by focusing on what we need in any moment.
I couldn't agree more. I love that your online presence is very honest. So you share family life. You shared you're adopting the dog. You share how you're feeling. How do you keep up with social media? Because that is such a crazy part of life at the moment. Do you specifically take over your accounts yourself, or do you have help with that? How does that work?
I do it all myself, which is probably the problem, because again, I'm always chasing my tail. I go through periods if I'm about to release a 12-week course or whatever it might be with my socials, then I'll be quite structured with how am I going to explain this to people and present it so they're clear about what it is. But then there'll be other periods where because as you say, we've all got so much to do in the real world out of the digital world day to day. Then sometimes the digital world side of things gets squeezed. But I've got so much to thank the digital world for social media with regards to my career. So I always try to honor that and come back to it. But again, it's a dance of feeling like I'm in a good place, kind of showing up well, and sharing my truth on that platform in regards to my work and everything else. And then other times I'm like, I need to bring that into a bit more focus and create a bit more structure. So again, it's a work in progress, and all these different channels as well now, and everything's evolving. And we have our kind of core ones, like obviously Instagram, but there are other ones which I have a bit of a presence on, which I don't always show up for. And one of my goals, I think, for next year is to try to be a little bit more evenly spread, so that I'm not leaving one just to completely die out on its own whilst I focus on the others. So trying to be a bit more consistent is something I need to do, I think, to be honest.
It is a lot.
When you hear the panting is not me. For those listening, if you're driving your car, that panting is not me. We've got a playmate for Ruby, our puppy. We've got another dog called Aries over at the moment, and they keep darting in, spreading the love. So yeah, I might close the door.
I do hear the birds as well, which is quite nice.
Oh, okay. Well, I might keep the door open.
Yeah.
The tranquility of it.
No problem, because I've got 2 dogs under my desk at the moment, so you might hear some strange things as well. Yeah.
Should we just give them the microphones and make it a doggy podcast and just see what
Can
sounds?
You imagine? We'd probably hit number 1 on iTunes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about adopting the dog into your family. So what brought that decision on, and how is it going?
Well, to be honest, for years we've wanted to have, for years we've wanted to adopt a dog, and I always grew up with dogs, and we're doggy people. But then humans came along. We created these little humans. We're like, oh, this is quite a lot of work. This is this is quite taking up a lot of our energy and focus. So we're like, well, we'll wait until the time is right. But our kids are now 6, almost 7, and 4, and so just getting to that stage where feeling a little bit more independence, and we really want them to grow up around animals as well. We've already got guinea pigs, and we have lots of in-laws with other pets that they spend a lot of time with, but it was time for our own, and we moved into this new house a year ago that's got the space and is out in the countryside. So yeah, now was the right time. And my wife's a teacher, so she obviously has these school holiday periods which last 2 months, and we went away for July, came back in August, like, right, this is the moment. If we don't do it now, we're not going to have that extended bit of time to really devote, the nights and everything else that goes into making the puppy feel at home. But she's been amazing. She's, slotted straight into the family, and it was really completed. Actually, it feels like hard to imagine life without her. She brings so much love. And on Wednesdays, in particular, and sometimes more days a week, I'm fully at home, working at home on my own usually. And even though I'm quite happy in my own company and there's lots to do, I've noticed that actually having her around just gives me that extra little lift of joy in my heart. And I probably was verging on a bit of loneliness before, but with her around, I'm never lonely. So it's a beautiful thing. And she's one of the family now for sure. Mm.
Yeah, definitely. I can't really say that I was a huge dog person. And then we adopted our first dog. And it's just one of those things when you go away, whether it's for work or pleasure. And it's like the first thing when you're coming home, you just can't wait to be greeted by that dog. Yeah, it's definitely a special bond.
Totally. And I think dogs do just talk about, living in the present moment. They are so present. They're so present. They're just so joyful to be doing what they're doing right now. We can learn a lot from dogs, and with that energy they bring, they help us just to get so present and focused. We get out of our heads into our interactions with them. And, they are just little bundles of love and joy that amplify our mental and emotional wellness. Totally. Yeah.
100%. Even though I live considered in the city, at one end of my street, I can enter horse fields, and there's a massive hill, and I take the dogs. It's their favorite thing to do. And we go to the top of the hill, and there's this one massive, it's a dead tree now, but it's just like the ashes for our previous dog are there because it was his favorite spot. But we sit there, and you can see the London Eye and Big Ben, and you just see the city, and the dogs love going up there, and they stare at the view as much as we do. It's just, I just love that because it just takes you back to, you can breathe, and it's quite nice. It's a break from the hustle, and
you just have a little moment there. Do you crouch down with them, and you're just looking, and you're in each other's presence, and it's just,
yeah, definitely. I mean, the first thing we do is we get to the tree. No matter who's with us, you have to touch the tree. That's kind of our thing. And in the summers, we have picnics under the tree. It's kind of our space. So we've done it since we've lived here. And with friends, we have picnics, and the dogs are the biggest part of that. So
if this sounds dreamy, don't tell anyone where you live. This sounds like one of the best locations in all of London. Unbelievable.
Talking about that, when our previous dog had passed away 2 years ago, and that was his favorite spot, we went up there with friends and scattered some ashes and had a glass of Prosecco. And close friends of ours made this poster with his photo and said it was his favorite spot and nailed it to the tree. So I was always afraid to go back up because I thought, that poster is not going to last very long. And it had blown off. We had a storm, and I thought, what, the poster's gone, and I just have to live with that. And we went back up the hill for a walk, and someone had actually nailed it back on, like a complete stranger.
So you went back, and all of a sudden the photos recovered.
It was ripped off. It was gone. And then someone had taken the liberty of just putting it back up. And I thought that was so respectful. I mean, it's mostly dog walkers up there, so people understand it. But I just thought that was something that really made my heart happy.
Yeah, that's just the most beautiful example of how, this love reverberates through us all. And that's like a scene from a film that would just have me in tears as well. I I can almost feel into what that must have been like for you, and the power in that moment is that's quite remarkable. That's
Yeah, and
beautiful.
I mean the poster is long gone now, and we've never found it, which is quite nice because it kind of makes you feel like maybe he's moved on. But
Mm.
we've put a solar light onto the tree now, so I haven't been there for a little while, so I'm not sure if that's still there. But yeah, our kind of happy space and
Yeah,
kind of like the joy that dogs bring to our world.
dogs and nature. There's this site, this natural site, this tree, which you feel a calling to and keep returning to time and time again, and has healing properties to it and nourishment as you look back over the city, this man-made amazing sprawl, but it's plugging yourself back into nature. I'm sure that is a big part of that as well. Wow, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's crazy. That tree's just brought good times. It's brought bad times. It's just represents our whole life here. And
Mm.
a few years ago, I had major surgery, and I remember I could almost not make it up that hill because I couldn't breathe. And I just thought, I'm going to do this. And my dogs would patiently wait for me because they were like, what's happening? We normally would race to this tree. Like that would be something we would do. We'd be like, all right, let's run. And we would get to the tree the quickest. But I just couldn't do it. But that tree actually brought me back to health because I just
Yeah.
clogged on and I was like, I am going to get to this tree.
Yes.
And I did it every other day. And even when people were saying you shouldn't be doing this or don't do it on your own.
Mm.
But yeah, no, the trees just brought so much to us. So I hope the tree stays there for many, many years to come.
Of course. I love that. It's just inviting you forward, one step in front of the other. And that's all you ever need to focus on. And you'll get there, inviting you back to health. Wow. That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful, Kev.
Love it.
Mm.
So how does somebody find you? And then when they do contact you, how do you know it's a right fit?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Join us each week on the Well Beyond Medicine podcast as we explore the 80% of child health impacts that occur outside the doctor's office. Listen and subscribe at nemorswellbeyond.org, where you'll hear pediatric experts, researchers, and policymakers from around the world discussing ways they are revolutionizing children's health. I'm your host, Carol Vassar. Let's go.
Let's go. Well beyond medicine.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And the first thing to say is it is a very one-to-one personal relationship that I have with all of my online clients. And it's not an automated button that you press and all of a sudden you're on a course and you're getting sent, automated messages and so on. There is obviously a degree of automation, but it's a very personalized service in that the very first thing we do is have a very in-depth conversation. So rather like this, and how you like these conversations to flow. I love my conversations to flow with my client first up, and I'll always base them on 3 key points. Number 1, we'll start to chat a little bit about creating clarity around their vision of what I call their future best self. And, often when someone starts and embarks upon a fitness routine, they'll simply think about their goals. And very often there will be maybe functional goals, something they want to achieve in the gym, or there'll be aesthetic goals, something they want to achieve with their body composition. But I've tried to evolve that a little bit further and say, let's create real clarity around your goals and visions. And that's almost step 1. You have to have a clear vision of where you're going. And then number 2, we'll talk through any challenges and obstacles that they currently see that stand between where they are now and where they want to be, where I will get them. And then the third part of the conversation is I'll talk to them about the online coaching and how it works, and we'll start to relate that to their life so they can get an understanding of, again, whether it'd be right for them, and I can get an understanding of whether it'd be right for them. Myself, I don't always take everyone on. I sometimes refer elsewhere. And then after that, so they'll get sent the questionnaire. It's the chance for them to get down in writing all the key points that we've discussed. The first half of the questionnaire is very practical, fitness-based questions, the nuts and bolts. But the second half of the questionnaire starts to tap into the area that I really, I suppose, is my USP in many ways, is that I get people to delve a little bit into their personal growth side of things. And I use mindfulness and breathwork as a little bit of a tool to help people create that clarity of where they're working, and then to continually reinforce the emotional intention to get there. It's one thing having the systems and structures, i.e. training plan, food plan, activity and habit goals that align with their goal and vision. But we've got this really interesting part to us all, which is, human behavior. And so often we choose habits and actions that don't align with our goals and visions. And I think that using mindfulness as a tool enables us to create space between our reactions or choices. And it creates space and enables us to make a choice that serves us rather than to react in a way that doesn't. So I use a lot of mindfulness practices. And as I say, breathwork's a big tool for that, to help people self-manage around their around the structure that I give them for their training plans and group plans. So I'm always guiding them along the way. We have weekly check-ins where, that obviously provides a huge degree of accountability because they can upload their stats, but also it's a huge part of assessing. So we're not guessing and celebrating progress. I want to try and shift the energy people feel from feeling almost when people talk about motivation and fitness, I think a lot of people are more motivated through fear about, if I don't do this, this will happen, and that could be anything for anyone. And I try and switch that into a more positive energy, which is a more inspired action around this vision they're being pulled towards. It's pulling you forward rather than pushing you. And every little indicator that you get that you're on that path, that you're on that journey, I try to really amplify it and get my clients to lean into it and celebrate that, so they become their own inspiration. And that inspired action perpetuates more inspired action, and it becomes a really life-enhancing experience, utilizing fitness, but also mindfulness, and so on. And so they, once they embark upon this journey, they have these weekly check-ins, they have the systems and structures. But I'm very closely working every day with my online clients, just helping them to see things sometimes they don't see, helping them to navigate challenges that maybe they haven't come up against before, and helping them to release old stories, self-limiting beliefs, and to embrace a new narrative that's attached to this vision that they've created of their future best self, essentially. But this sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron or paradox, whatever the right word is. It's key to have intention and clarity over that future vision. And it's key to action out all the systems and the structures that align with it to embody that process. But really to do it whilst being present is the key thing. We're not trying to forget the now in our life whilst trying to strive for something in the future. Actually, we're trying to live our best life right now so that we are streamlined towards that vision and our future best self. And I believe mindfulness holds the key to allowing us to do that, essentially.
I agree. Two things have just popped into my mind. One is you've just been celebrating a client who's lost 25 kilos.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Well, at that point, actually, so there's another client who, different client. So this client's actually just touching on 26 kgs lost now. And there's another client who lost 24 kgs. He started working with me right when I launched a year ago. Wasn't really into, and I've shared his story on socials as well, of course, with his permission and collaborating with him on it. But wasn't really into fitness before, struggled to kind of make it stick. And for him, the mindfulness and that self-management and self-awareness was the missing formula, the missing key, because he really felt connected to his movement. And it was building what I love to refer to as his life force. When your vibration is up, you're connected to presence, and you've got that psychological sense of personal pride, trust and self-belief in yourself. And you take that out to everyday life. So all of a sudden you're using fitness as a tool to enhance your life experience out there in the real world, rather than showing up to a gym and kind of self-flagellating because you think you need to, because you've been told all this stuff. Anyway, but he, at the moment, is in Everest Base Camp. He did the London Marathon earlier on this year. He's trekked to Everest. He's living a life full of adventure. And so when we say weight loss and we say 24 kgs lost or 26 kgs lost, obviously that pings out in front as a statistic, as data. But actually what that means is it's opening the door to a life full of adventure and to allowing your life experience to be enhanced through fitness. And when I see my clients do that and use their newfound energy levels and mental clarity and everything else alongside their physical resilience and bodies that they're building, that's why I do it. That's exactly why I do it. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. I've been a coach for 16 years. The majority of that time has been in person. I've coached over 12,000 in-person workouts during that time. But I have to say that the big breakthrough for me as a coach in terms of fulfillment and how I can best communicate and serve others has been through the online coaching. It's been unbelievable. Yeah.
The other part that I was going to touch on is, do you feel that we sort of live in a society where people want to go from A to B as quickly as possible?
Well, maybe from A to Z as quickly as possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think we forget. I mean, a lot of people are encouraged to have ambition, which, growth and expansion is a wonderful thing. That's why we're here in many ways, but we just have to be wary of summit fever, where we forget. I don't want to sound like too cliched or cheesy, but the joy really is in the journey. The joy really is in the process, and the journey is the goal, and the outcomes then take care of themselves. Once we've created awareness around that vision, that future, then we have to just be all in with that present moment and what we're doing. And to be fixated on outcomes does a number of things. It extricates us from the present moment and all the joy that's to be found there. The essence of life is in each and every present moment. Otherwise, it's a memory or a story. So outcomes extricate us from that, but also it's a form of limitation as well. If we're too rigid with wanting to get from A to B, whatever it might be, then automatically that is in many ways a limitation. If we just explore with curiosity and see what's possible, and we explore our purpose and see what's in front of us and be all in with that and give it everything that we've got, then often the outcomes will surprise and delight us. They'll surpass what we would have had initially. And that's not to say that I don't value, goal setting. I do, but I just think that we should see it as like a layer of an onion, where we're peeling back the layers and we're growing and we're moving forward all the time, as opposed to seeing one-off goals. In terms of fitness in particular, as something we need to achieve, and then once we've achieved it, we're lost, we walk away. And this is what most people do. They have a little sprint, January, February, let's say, achieve something, and then they fall away, and then start to feel a little bit frustrated, start to feel ambiguity and lost in everything, and then go again. Whereas actually we can keep exploring, we can keep moving forward. So yeah, wherever you are on a spectrum, and everyone's in a different place, physically, emotionally, whatever it might be, you can't jump from A to Z, but you can search for the next best feeling, or the next, whether that's an emotion or whether that's something physically with regards to your fitness. Just explore the next thing, keep exploring, and just see where you end up, because it'll be a place that may well surprise and delight you, as I say.
Do you take them on until they reach their goal, or do you continue on afterwards, or is it a mix of both?
So it's a mix of both. I know that everyone's got their own things going on in their life. I always recommend that they have a 3-month minimum commitment period. The vast majority of clients go way past that. As I say, I've got clients at the moment who are in their 11th month. But the reason why, so I like to take my clients on what I call progress surges, where for a 12-week period, and you've probably seen this a lot in the fitness industry because it's quite popular with things like body transformation photos and so on. Physical adaptation, if you really stick to systems and structures over a 12-week period, can be really amplified. So yes, I want my clients to enjoy that, because that's all part of it, and that's something to celebrate, and that feeds into many benefits: psychological, physical, emotional. But I also want them to get to that life-changing point where they've upskilled in the gym or their home workouts, whatever it is. So they're adding to their movement toolkit, but they've really got to that point where they're learning more about self-awareness themselves and how to manage themselves in alignment with their goals and visions. And once they get to that point, it's up to my clients. They tend to follow on because they're on this journey, and I love guiding them, and I think they feel that authenticity. But everyone's got their own things going on in life. I understand that as well. And sometimes people might do it for 3, 4, 5 months and decide that they got what they needed and then move on. And that is beautiful as well. Yeah.
Do you make yourself available at any time? Can your clients reach out in one way or another at any time? Or do you sort of have like some rules, house rules?
Yeah, well, I do have some house rules in there as well. Most of them actually are for the client. So house rules, LLC ground rules, I call them, because it's called Lawrence's Life Club. So no phone scrolling in the hour before bed, no phone scrolling in the hour after waking. This is,
what?
yeah. So this is to kind of give my clients back control of their own awareness, and so they're in less of a reactionary state and they feel more centered and in alignment, because that's a powerful, that's again returning back to their truth, where they can create some real magic from. And also crucially, I recommend no phone scrolling during workouts. Of course, they can enter the data into the app as they go, and they can listen to music because that has a real emotional power to it. But in terms of scrolling for social media, checking emails and so on, again, it pulls them out of the present moment where a lot of the magic happens. When we shift our energy and we work out, we'll get these moments of inspired insight. And it's where a lot of my biggest life decisions come. My life decisions don't come from sat down in front of the computer, looking at all this data, trying to rigidly, work out all these conclusions as to what I need to do. It all comes from within me. It's already within all of us, I think, if we allow it to come through. And the gaps between sets, and when our heart rate is up and when we're at a higher vibration because we're moving from a cellular level, physiologically, right up to a macro emotional level, that's where we get these amazing moments of insight. And that essentially helps us to pave out our life experience. So I always encourage my clients not to get distracted from the power of that, because you can discover your next purpose or your life purpose, whatever it might be, in a workout. So those are my clients' ground rules. But for me, I always make myself available Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. I have an assistant as well who helps me, and we always endeavor to respond to messages within 24-hour period. But because it's been very busy, those are the rules that I kind of put out there so people understand expectations. But I often work on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, because there's stuff to be done. But it's I live in one of those states where my obsession, my passion of living the fitness-led lifestyle, incorporating mindfulness, overlaps with my work. So it's not like I feel huge separation between the two. I'm literally obsessed with, I wake up and I'm like, right, what do I need today? Do I need to move? Do I need to lift some weight? Am I feeling some sort of warrior energy? Am I going to go tear up in the gym, or do I need to go slow, go and sit in the woods, meditate? And I'm obsessed with that. And so when I get my first message in from the day and it's from a client and they're saying, I'm feeling this way and I'm struggling with this, I'm like, this is beautiful. How can we kind of all, find a level to communicate what's best here? And so it's not, I don't see it as work, because I see it as a bit of a calling, as cheesy again as that sounds. This is my life purpose. This is what I'm drawn to personally and professionally. So I set boundaries for expectation purposes for my clients, but actually I'm always in it. I'm always in it.
And this is a big change because you have 15 years playing rugby for Wales.
Oh yeah.
Right? So you total opposite. So
this is funny.
How did that transaction happen? How did that happen?
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, I started playing rugby and I was okay at it. I started playing for Wales under 16 level, and I was like, I want to be a rugby player. I'm passionate about this. I was growing up in South Wales. And so obviously I, at the age of 15, was put into what they call like an elite S&C environment, a strength and conditioning environment, Welsh Institute of Sport. So I was being exposed to all these, professional fitness coaches, plucked out that kind of old school, literally school training environment. And it was like, wow, you can modify the body, you can increase your power and your strength, endurance and your agility, and you can do all these things. And so for a good decade or so, I was fixated on using fitness as a tool to improve performance on the rugby pitch. I did have a big knee blowout. I did have an ACL reconstruction and meniscus, which sidelined me for a year or so. And then in that period, because up until that period, to be honest, fitness, I'd never really enjoyed the conditioning session. I don't think anyone really truly does at a sports team. It was always a means to an end. It was always so that I could express myself better on a sports pitch, and that excited me. But then when I got injured and I had this knee reconstruction, I had a year where I was really reflecting on how you could, really modify the body and improve it and turn weaknesses into strengths. So after I graduated from university, I went back to study and got all my personal training qualifications, kept playing serious rugby in Wales to the age of 24. And then I kind of moved to London and just threw myself into coaching. And that's when I started. I was still playing until my late 20s, but I started to evolve a little bit into training for, there's a lot of, I suppose, I don't want to generalize too much, but a lot of the guys I knew were training for aesthetics to build the body in a certain way. And I kind of got into that. And that led me into, shooting with, Men's Health magazine, Men's Fitness magazine, that kind of stuff, which was kind of cool. But I kept going back to the gym and thinking, all that, training for sport was great, but that's kind of done now. Training for aesthetics was kind of, that's fine, but done now. And I've just kept finding myself go back to the gym to train. Like, well, why do I keep feeling this calling to go back to the gym and exercise and work out? And in my 30s, started to realize that it was all about the feeling that it was giving me. It was all about this life force that it was giving me, that I was taking out to other areas of my life, which were improving, my roles and relationships, where I'd show up for things. And that's when then I started falling more into mindfulness and understanding the brain. Actually understanding the connection between the body, the mind, critical thinking, our ego, and then our deeper awareness, or our spirit, our soul, whatever you feel most comfortable calling that third part. And everyone's got their own version of what they're comfortable with there. But I started to realize that actually it's a part of all three. And when we're at our best, we're in alignment. All three are in alignment. We're looking after our body, we're looking after our mind, and we are grounded in our awareness and our deeper knowing. So I suppose I'm in the third chapter of my fitness journey, and it all started with rugby, but that was just a way to get me into fitness. It feels a very long time ago, if I'm honest with you. I haven't touched a rugby ball for about 10 years.
You landed the cover, didn't you? Men's Fitness
magazine. Yeah. So
yeah.
Exactly. So I'd done a number of articles with Men's Health, and then after my son was born, it was literally like a day or two after, we were because we had our daughter who just that same week had progressed to not being in a cot. So she's in a regular bed, so she could get up and walk around. All of a sudden we had this new human in the house, and she was like her eyes were like possessed. She's like, this is like, I can't take it. This is amazing. What's going on here? So she's up all night, baby's up all night. And we were just like, the last thing on my mind was training and eating in alignment with body composition. But then I get a call from my agency saying that they'd like me to shoot the cover. And I was like, right, okay. In 2 weeks' time. So I was like, okay, I've got 2 weeks. Okay, let's how can I juggle and combine family life with getting in, shape for cover shoot? So any opportunity I would get, I would strap my daughter, who was still young at the time, to my chest in the morning, and I would take her out, and I'd have my morning coffee, and I'd take her for a walk up and down the hills before I had my breakfast, so to get lean. And then I was like, right, get into the gym, lift the weights, any opportunity I could, juggling it with childcare and everything else and parenting. But yeah, then the shoot came along, and still didn't. So after I did the shoot, it's obviously a number of months before it comes out, and I spoke to one of my friends who'd been on the cover a couple of years before, and he was like, that they do shoot guys, and you never end up on the cover, so there's an editing process. And I was like, okay, well, I won't end up on the cover then. And then we went on holiday and came back in August, and it was the September edition, and then it was literally in every service station, news agent. It was just a weird feeling, kind of, walking down Tesco's, and people like, I went for a haircut and it's on the side, and it's just a bit of a messes with your head a little bit. I was still like, what? It was just like, I kept being like, this is weird, like, why, what? But yeah, it was a fun thing. It was really good for, in terms of I suppose kudos in the fitness industry. It's a good thing, but really it's just random bit of fun. Yeah.
It's such a contrast as well to like your real life, what's happening at the time.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But I always think, because I wasn't necessarily, in my mind, I wasn't, on song with my training and everything else at that time. But I always, it made me realize that no matter what I'm going through in life, that's pulling me in other directions, in terms of my energy, if I was just keep myself ticking over, keep going back to fitness to give myself that base to live from, then you're stronger, and the most powerful version of you is there to take on things. But also, if I ever get the call, 2 weeks, I'll be ready, because I want to keep myself 2 weeks out. So anyone else who's listening to this and thinking of the next cover shoot, just give me 2 weeks and I'll be there. I'll be ready.
What's the experience of being a fit trainer?
Oh yeah, great. So I had just over 3 years, I guess, with Fit. It was one of those, again, I saw this brand burst into life. And I was like, crikey, you know, they've got these amazing trainers on there who are really well known. They're doing these cool workouts, which are interactive, and they're combining these awesome visuals with this great music mix. And
Are you actually in a studio and not with your clients? So that is a different situation, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you know, they film it out just by the Olympic Stadium. There's all these huge, I think, is it BT Sports and all these kind of huge TV broadcasting outlets have studios there, where they, for the 2012 Olympics, they housed all of the media companies who are covering the Olympics. And then now they hire out these amazing studios. So you go in and it's all these different cameras around. You've got all these different cues. So it's a combination of fitness and presenting, essentially, but you're presenting on the go. We collaborate and design all the workouts and lead up to it as well. And that was an amazing 3 years with amazing people. Love them to bits, like family. You know, when people say like family and they refer to work people, and you're like, are they though? Are they like family? Like, like actually love them all so much. And that was just a really special chapter of my life that kicked off, obviously, over COVID, because I think I'd been filming with them for a year or two, and then 2020 came along, and all of a sudden, the, I suppose, interactive digital fitness space was something that was coming in like 4 or 5 years' time, but it just all of a sudden became the entire industry.
It had to happen at that point, didn't it? Yeah,
totally. So it was crazy. We were kind of, you know, we had to obviously film more as well to cope with demand. And so I remember going down to stay in a hotel and just living and breathing it for days on end. And then even now I was at this music gig recently, and I turned around. So this is just to say the impact that had on the amount of people who were at home doing those workouts. So I was at this, watching a band that I love with my wife, and I thought, let's turn around and do a little selfie. So I turned around and did a little selfie so you could see the stage behind us. And then I turned my face, obviously, to the crowd of the people behind us. And this girl starts freaking out. And I'm like, oh God, she thought I was taking a photo of her. And I was like, that's so embarrassing. I was taking, and the next thing I know, is this whole family kind of grabbing me, who was saying during their lockdown period that the fit workouts were there, saved their sanity. They obviously kept them fit and kept them moving. But actually, the amount of people who've come up to me and just said that over COVID during the lockdowns, those fit workouts got them through is, again, still something that I can't quite believe. And you just film it and you walk away. You're obviously never there when people are doing these workouts. And it's been an amazing, it's been an amazing thing to keep bumping into people who have done those workouts, particularly over COVID, and said that it's got them through lockdowns, which I truly believe, because, you know, movement, as I say, does lift our vibration. It kind of recalibrates us, brings us into alignment, and it's probably the most important thing for us all to have done when we're cooped up indoors for weeks on end. So I feel humbled and proud, really, to have been a part of that. Yeah.
I think COVID probably brought so much for the multimedia industry. It definitely brought, like for my working in healthcare, so it brought telephone appointments, it brought video appointments, it brought all that sort of, and things that will keep forever, which are actually helping people.
Exactly. And I think it went both ways. I think that a lot of the people who may be designing and creating those systems that you were using knew that it would work, but it's getting the public on side to know that it works just as well. And when you're forced into a situation just to give it a try, and you're like, oh, it works, then you break old habits, you embrace the change, and then boom, a whole new generation has begun. Yeah, for sure.
Especially older people who are afraid of technology.
Yeah,
are the first ones to be FaceTiming now, and they're so connected with their families around the world now. And I think there were a lot of positivity around multimedia out of COVID.
100%. I totally agree with you. And I feel very lucky to, actually at the time I felt kind of mixed feelings. I was torn slightly, this huge kind of trauma emerging for the mass, tragic circumstances with the wider world. And then I felt extremely fortunate that this was happening and it was benefiting, fitness and how we communicate fitness. So I had very mixed feelings about that whole episode in our lives. Yeah.
And a lot of people looked forward to having that, whether it was 10, 15 minutes to go for a walk around the park, get that fresh air. just feel like you're moving because we were all stuck in the house.
Exactly. I think it really tuned a lot of us into the power that movement and time in nature has. And, nature still, our bodies still very much recognize nature as our home. Of course, this is well documented. If you look at the evolution of humankind, we're not an indoor species. We don't respond well to that. We get out into nature and we walk around all the sights and sounds, the smells, the various different patterns that emerge in front of us. We get connected to that. As I say, it gets us out of our heads into our bodies, into the present moment. And it should be as much as possible an essential part of all of our days, whether you live in the city or in the countryside. It doesn't matter. Just walk in the park, get out, start moving. It can change the shape of your day for sure.
Definitely. Talking about mindfulness, you attended was it the Medicine Festival?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, a few weeks ago. Incredible experience.
And what was that like?
Well, amazing, really. I was with a group of friends who are very much on our journeys together. We met up maybe 5-6 years ago to start a group that initially we thought was all about business, about, how could we, because we're all freelancers, self-employed, how could we be accountable to people? How could we share our kind of, goals and visions and create structure for each other and the rest of it? But very quickly evolved into a group of 4 men who are really on a growth journey to learn more about themselves. And, again, it actually comes back to that whole thing that if you focus on yourself and you bring yourself into alignment and focus on your body, mind, your spirit, then a lot of the other things in life start to fall into place once you look inward and you start focusing on yourself. So that anyway started this long journey of us exploring mindfulness. And we ended up, staying at Medicine Festival, where my friend Ben was doing a number of breathwork workshops as well, which was incredibly powerful, giving, breathwork has many different functions, physiologically through to psychologically and emotionally. And, his experience, that was the last time I cried 3 weeks ago, like deep sobbing tears, unexpected. You never really expect it. You go in not knowing what to expect, but your body knows and your body releases when it needs to release. And, that experience, along with a whole host of other experiences, I arrived there and I was still feeling quite rigid, slight sense of kind of, tension in my body from all the things I have to do out there in the world, as we all carry, that with us. And the first thing, I walked up with my friend Alex and we went up into this section in the woods away from the main stage and the main tents and all this area. And there was just a small group of people, most of them half naked, in the woods dancing, making random sounds, everyone making random sounds, coming closer together, being directed by someone. And obviously I was stood at the back, being, fully clothed and just being quite sort of rigid, slowly, like you're at church on a Sunday, slowly whispering the words, instead of singing them. Anyway, fast forward, 4 days, by the end, I'm back up there, just in my shorts, in the middle of the group, making all the sounds that just feel natural, that come out without any judgment for myself, for others, without kind of feeling any separation between me and the others there, just feeling connected with love, feeling this beautiful energy. And that freedom, that liberation, is something I've tried to integrate as much as possible into the real world, into the modern day world, the structured world. Just trying to sort of understand what holds me back from my conditioning, where freedom is for me, what brings me back to my truth. And those experiences where you go away to something like Medicine Festival just help you get there. They really do help to fast track you. And I recommend to anyone, if you find a group of friends who on a similar mission to explore their truth as much as possible and do so without judgment and just return back to that loving place, then, create a group, go explore stuff, get out there, go on retreats, go to festivals like this, and just see what's possible. Yeah.
I love that. I tour manage a little bit. And during the summer, we've just been to big festivals, and it's the opposite reaction for me, because I love doing the festivals. It's fun. It's exciting. You meet crazy people. But I come back feeling quite stressed. And so that I would love to experience something like that. I think that's the opposite of the way I feel when I come back from,
Yes.
which I say I love doing, and I do love doing. The whole experience is quite fun, but I come back feeling stressed, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that's over.
This was, about releasing and letting go. And you go to these amazing DJ sets where the most incredible DJs, before you start dancing, are playing meditative music with nature sounds, and they're taking you through a meditation. You're on the floor, your hands are on the ground, you're feeling grounded, you're giving thanks, you're feeling gratitude, and slowly the music ramps up, and it's about exploring the energy that's within you. So it's all about connection. Whereas so many of the other festivals I've been to have been the opposite. It's like disconnect. It's like, lose your head, lose your mind, drink as much booze as you can drink, well, that can be fun. I'm not saying it's not, but, and a bit of revelry is great. But the medicine has a very different feel to it. And I came back, instead of feeling broken, I came back feeling really in alignment and wanting just to take that out to as many areas of my life as possible. It's a unique festival. We kept saying to each other, God, imagine if the world was like this. Imagine if everyone was like this. You bump into strangers. Like I bumped into a mother and a daughter queuing for coffee on the last day, and we didn't budge from the spot for the next hour. We were just chatting, and we were, learning about each other. Everyone's so clear minded, and in the eyes that you acknowledge people as you walk past. You hold space for people. There's no judgment. There's no fear. There's no anger. It's just the most amazing environment. And we just kept saying, imagine if the world was like this.
Imagine that on the tube.
Yeah. It's a different experience.
It's a different world. It is.
It is. Yeah.
Did you?
We'll get there, Kev.
Yeah, someday. I try. I always say it's my Canadian. It's the Canadian coming out in me. I talk to strangers. Some people turn their head, and other people I've become lifelong friends with.
That's awesome. Awesome. We got to keep doing that. But people might think we're crazy, but I think connection is something. Just it's amazing once you speak to someone, you just learn a little bit about them, how you see them, just a little bit more, and therefore a
friend of mine who I met on the train. Actually, we would just travel the same train every day. We didn't work together, but we got off at the same stop. And we just started speaking one day, and she has been a really close friend ever since. And my friends, who I've known for years outside of that, refer to her as she's Nikki from the train. So that's how she's introduced to everybody.
Amazing.
And her children call me Uncle Kevin, and we just have a great relationship. Yeah, and we met on the train.
You were guided together, and you took the opportunity to start that.
Yeah.
That relationship. That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy how the world works.
It is.
One thing I've noticed is at home, and so when I go home in Canada, everybody's very chatty with each other. They don't know each other, but they'll just chat, especially. So you just mentioned the checkout. And that's one thing that my mom called me out on when I was home last time, because I wasn't making eye contact and I was avoiding conversation. And we got in the car, and my mom she told me off. She's like, remember where you come from.
That's amazing.
You're not in London. And it actually made me realize how little we are chatty and take time for each other here, because we're in a rush all the time.
In a rush, it's almost too much, too much for us to comprehend. We don't know where to start. So we close ourselves off from it. I don't, because again, I'm torn. I love the buzz of the city. I love the energy. I love London so much. We feed off it, right? But how do we get the right balance between, interaction and not being isolated in that buzz? Because it's all about connection. It's all about coming back. Let's start a commune in the center of London.
Exactly.
Where everyone chats.
So we were talking about all the serious mindfulness, mental health. And then you have a day where you're modeling for the day.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that's a 360-degree turn, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. John, I love a few things about modeling. I've been doing it, I suppose, for 5 or 6 years. And again, it was something that I wanted to do. I had that intention around it, but I was never successful in making it happen myself. But I got signed by my agency initially because I started doing social media and sharing about fitness. So it was more about that, like a kind of fitness influencer approach. And then as a result, I was asked to do a shoot for an activewear, a multi-activewear brand website. So it was like a fitness sports shoot essentially. So I did that, and that went quite well. And then obviously got images back from that, started being put forward for other sports shoots, and then eventually started being put forward for non-sports shoots. So, like cars and coffee, all that. So basically the modeling thing just kind of naturally happened. And then now I'm standing in my pants in a room in front of 20 people having underwear shoots and all that kind of stuff. And I've always just, again, thought if this feels good and if this feels right, I'm just kind of going to flow with it. I've always, enjoyed being around creative people and that creative energy that we get on shoots, whether it's still or video, is something that is a real breakaway from my everyday life. And I really take away so much from it. I feed off it. I really love it. And initially, again, I started off doing shoots that were very different to the ones that I necessarily do now. I've got some crazy trips coming up with shoots, and it's just a really interesting little angle in my life that I've got. But you're right, it is a different energy and it is a different mind and headspace to be when on set. But I really like the fact that when I'm on location or shooting, whatever it might be, then I'm doing the easy bits. I'm not organizing it all. I'm not, like it's so stressful, kind of like organizing all and giving. And I really enjoy the freedom of that and the freedom of expression. And I always develop a close relationship with the photographers and the videographers. And we also, that's such an important one. We always just kind of spar for each other. And I was going to say,
do you have input? Do you think, well, I've got this idea. Should we try this? Or
yeah, I think, I do. And again, it depends on the team and the brand and who I'm working with. And there's some photographers I've got really comfortable with and used to working with. And we definitely kind of spar for each other. But don't get me wrong, there are other shoots where it's quite clinical and you show up and you have to do exactly as they say. And I'm like, it's not my job to suggest anything. And I just, stand back on that front. But a lot of shoots are definitely collaborative. And sometimes you just do little movements, almost off shot, and they're like, oh, let's just look at that, or let's look at this. And it's a combination of having structure of what shots need to be got in different settings, but then there's always stuff that comes out of nowhere that's unexpected. That's often the best stuff, actually, just because the photographer's like, just a light, just go and stand at a light over there, and whatever it might be. But it's just a creative process I really enjoy, and I've always been creative. I did art at A level, even though I was playing rugby for Wales, and I had that jock label. I was also in the art department, loving all of that and music and stuff. So it just it helps me to diversify my interests, really. And I'm really grateful for it. I love it. And I just want to keep exploring it. As I turn 40 now, in a couple of months, I'm entering into a new genre of male model. I've got the grey stubble increasing, the grey hair.
Yeah, so I do as well.
It's good. It's like, it's a great look, Kev. That's bring it on.
I've embraced it. Yeah, 100%. That's much like a day out. You're just kind of enjoying yourself. It's not actually work, or do you feel sometimes it is?
Yeah, I think I take it very, I always really honor the professional environment and take it seriously. And it's something I really respect and was always grateful for. So it is a working day in that regard, but I try to be relaxed. I think if you're too rigid and if you're too kind of stiff, even though it's a working environment around you, then that can kind of show. So I think the idea really is to be as relaxed as possible whilst showing up and being present, and just, having a combination of leading with the direction they're giving you, but also being a bit spontaneous and so on. So, and then the other thing is, sometimes, a lot of the time, if I'm doing a topless shoot, then, I'll be really kind of focusing in on my diet and my training in the weeks leading up to it, and the body composition on the day. And sometimes, you kind of, you're not eating lots on the day. So you're kind of just keeping yourself at that level where you're hopefully staying a bit lean. And then, you've got to really delve into your mindfulness then, because you might be feeling a little bit low in energy sometimes, but you're like, got a few more hours to go, and I've got to keep it as it is. And it sounds bad, but the mindfulness element, is like able to kind of allow you to really show up even in that kind of situation. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
What's your advice on people looking for an online coach? So what's your advice on finding the right fit? Because there you can find a huge list of online coaches, but how do you know who's going to work with, and vice versa? Who's going to work with you? How is it going to work for you and with you?
So I think the most important thing, the word that keeps coming up time to time when you're looking for a coach, is authenticity. So, looking for someone who is authentically going to be there as your coach and is completely involved and all in on your growth and development, number one. But they do that with a huge degree of compassion and holding space for you at a pace that's right for you as well. So you want to avoid anyone who is systematically getting through as many clients as possible online and who is using, let's say, shame as a driver for action rather than kindness. And, those little nuances that you can get a feel for someone. There are some amazing coaches out there. There are some less amazing ones. And then on the other side of it, as a coach, the only thing really that I ask for my online clients is to be open for growth, to have as much of a kind of growth mindset as possible, to be ready to let go of what you were in order to become what you can be. And I think we need to be willing to let go and grow if we want to be all that we can be so often. And so having that growth mindset is all I ask really from my clients. And they're amazing, I have to say. They're amazing on that front. I've been very lucky with who I work with.
I think I will just sort of wrap it up with a few quick fire questions.
Oh, tasty. Nice.
Yeah. It's always fun. So I thought that would be something I could throw in.
Lovely.
Can you speak Welsh?
Dim siarad Cymraeg, which means, no, I can't speak Welsh. It's the only thing I need to know.
Do you prefer summer or winter?
Well, what if I prefer autumn? It's kind of in the middle. My favorite time is autumn.
I do as well.
Yeah, this period now, September, October, November is my favorite time. Yeah.
Me too. What's your sign?
My star sign is Sagittarius.
Morning or evening?
I used to be an evening person, but now I'm a morning person. Yeah.
I am as well.
Nice.
Love that time. Favorite month?
Well, I'm gonna go with October because it's beautiful when you get outside, when you go on your walks. It's a hugely productive month. I feel like everyone is back into their routines and that flow state. I find it one of my most productive months of the year. I love it. I get a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction from it. So October, yeah.
Pause from the quick fire questions just because you just said October, which I love as well. How do you deal with the early evening darkness, which I am struggling with already, and it's only September?
I think I'm lucky because I'm okay with the winter months from a mental health point of view. I am very lucky, and I've actually started to embrace the darkness this last year. This is going to sound weird, but I have an old converted whiskey cask ice bath barrel in the bottom of the garden. So in the winter months when it's dark, I get home from work and it's dark. It's normally iced over naturally because it's freezing. So I will get in there in the darkness, in the snow, in the rain, whatever it might be, for 3 or 4 minutes. That will supercharge my afternoon and my evening. This sounds like one of those crazy ice bath, self-indulgent kind of, moments, but genuinely, I see it as an obstacle to overcome mental resistance rather than all of the other physiological and health benefits. It's also helped me to really manage my nervous system, so I feel less anxious. But it's doing the thing that I don't want to do and overcoming that resistance that's thread out into other areas of my life where I've had a fair bit of procrastination as well. So that's how I deal with it, by taking it head on.
Good answer. Maybe I'll have to jump in the pool at night when I'm starting to feel.
Also, fire pit alongside that fire pit in the garden.
That is one of my favorite things. Yeah, I do love that, and that's what I love about October as well, because you can just put a jumper on, sit by the fire. Yeah, love that.
Totally. Love it.
Your favorite word?
Oh, my favorite word. I say juicy a lot. Crikey, I don't know where that came from. Juicy. My client will be doing a rep and I'm like, oh, it's juicy. I don't know. The word juicy is juicy, isn't it? It's
It
just
is.
like, oh my gosh, just a juicy word. And it's all sorts, it's like, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. From a juicy piece of fruit you want to sink your teeth into, to something highly sexual, which is all good, and and everything between, right through to just an innocent comment during a workout. So
Yeah.
Juicy, I'll go with juicy.
Love it. Who is your hero?
Oh, my hero. Gosh, I don't know who my one hero is. I have different heroes, I guess, for different things, but I suppose. Do you know what? Can I just say my brother? Can I put it out there?
Of course you can.
Is that okay? Just to throw that out there. Yeah, cancer survivor, amazing individual who a year after his big operation, half his liver removed, and all sorts going. And so he's an endurance athlete, not me. I'm like an hour in the gym, an hour out. But a year after, to mark the anniversary of that operation, he was doing this back called the Dragon's Back race, which is one of the hardest off-road mountainous races. It's like something crazy, like 4 or 5 days non-stop down the mountain range of Wales, down the spine of Wales, hence the Dragon's Back. You're doing like over a marathon a day over the mountains, which I couldn't imagine doing now, let alone a year after having an operation like that. So he's got that mental resilience. And I hope that I've got some of those genes in me that give me 10% of that. So yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet. He sounds like my hero, actually. Favorite body part?
Well, I do this a lot. People can't see who are listening, but I always put one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly.
Yep.
And I breathe in through my nose and I allow my belly to expand. So that's my diaphragmatic portion of my body. And I feel my heartbeat, and I close my eyes and I just feel a combination of gratitude, appreciation, and relief. And I do this now anywhere. It doesn't matter where I am. Again, I don't care who's watching. I'll just feel into the moment. And so I suppose, it's the combination of my heart and my belly, but I keep coming back to them. Again, I hold them and I breathe into it and I feel them, and I feel appreciation for this body and this life, and it's taking me through this life experience. So yeah, it's two technically, but they're intertwined.
Nice answer.
Didn't say my penis. Great. Phew. Whew, that was close.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna have to edit that. Your favorite band?
My favorite band is a band called Bear's Den. And have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Just keep coming back to them. It's like, it's I guess folk rock music that draws upon a lot of emotional and mental health themes, and it just speaks to me. I love it, and no matter how hard I try, I just keep listening to their music. And actually, that was the gig I was at when the family turned around and said that they'd been doing my classes during COVID. So yeah, Bear's Den.
Cool. Describe your style, but in one word.
What's the opposite to panache? Is there a word? I don't know. Okay. Curious. I'm always curious.
Oh,
I think curious. I'm just curious. I mean, I know that doesn't sound like a style. It's more like a doing thing. But I think my style is that, wherever I am, in that moment, I'm always curious about it. So, and I think that if you're curious, you're authentic as well. You're just kind of really, what is in front of me? What's happening here? Or who am I with? And what is this? And so, yeah, I don't know if it works for your question, but that's the first thing that came into my head.
Love that answer. What are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of? I guess I'm afraid of not living my truth, and I'm afraid of I'm afraid of not allowing my truth to be lived out in my life experience. And that can come through all sorts of, I'm afraid of, not living truthfully to myself. I'm not discovering my truth, my core essence of who I am, peeling back the layers. And I guess I'd be afraid that, it's a life that hasn't been done the justice it deserves if I was to live without fully knowing my truth and fully allowing my truth to come through. So I'd be afraid of that for sure. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I am going to leave it at that.
Hey, gosh, now I'm going to go and sit
chatting.
pensively in the garden and be like, my truth.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Cheers, mate. Right, back to life.
Thanks for your time, Lawrence. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Well, thank you, Kev. It's been honestly a total honor. I appreciate it so much.
Good stuff.